Hello, my name is Jasmine Lee, and I am not your mama's astrologer. Welcome to the week. This is a very Venus ruled week. We've got a lot going on as it pertains to Venus, and I don't know, do you like that for you? You know, whenever anything comes up in our love sector, whenever anything comes up in our relationship vibes, sometimes that can feel extremely confronting. Sometimes that can feel a little bit scary because I think relationships are where we can sometimes exert the most control, where we can sometimes exert the most fantastical beliefs that really are founded in nothing, that really originate from our own idealisms, our own belief systems, our own thought patterns, and our own upbringings. And so when all of these things kind of arise, change signs, come into the spotlight, it begs the question, how are you relating right now? How are you relating to yourself? How are you relating to others? What is coming up that needs to be revealed? Do we like this? Dealer's choice. So, hope springs eternal though, right? I mean, all of the Twitter patience starts happening in spring. Aries season comes and it's really about ourselves. And so when Venus comes into the mix, it says, how are we ourselves in relationships? Or not, as it were. So, knowing how we are trudging along our own path and who's standing next to us and why. And do they belong there? And do we want them there? These are big questions, and sometimes they render challenging answers because long-term relationships can get complex in that it's hard to witness change in our partners, in the people that live with us. I think as a mom, I see that a lot. I see my kids changing, and sometimes that threatens the dynamic of the house. It threatens the comfort levels of how we've always seen each other, and it is that outbreath. It is the allowing of our partners to be separate from us, of our children to be separate from us, that allow us to see ourselves as separate from them. So, together yet separate. You dig? I dig. I can get on this train, okay? Today, Monday, Venus moves into Taurus. Now, Taurus is ruled by Venus, so this is great. And I'm just thinking of, what does Venus in Taurus feel like? And Venus rules two signs. It rules Libra and it rules Taurus. Different vibes though. Libra is an air sign and Taurus is an earth sign. Venus in Libra is very much about talking about the beauty of the world, about going to art museums, listening to good music, talking to a loved one, feeling seen. But a Venus in Taurus is about the senses. It's about smelling nice things, feeling nice things, tasting nice things. And it makes me think of tactile memories. I cycled to this one memory of my mom used to always have slips, you know, those silky garment that you wear under dresses and whatever. And as a child, I was like, what is the functionality of a slip? It's pretty. And I used to see them in her closet all the time, and I would touch them and they would be so soft and so delicate. And that was one of those things as a child that I thought, like, I still feel like when I go into a Victoria's Secret that I am an imposter, that I am too young for this store. How weird is that? Especially as someone who went through puberty very early. But anyway, all to say, I would always view these very feminine things as not for me. And this spring break, I have been rethinking what's for me and what's not for me. And I have a few of my mom's slips now, and I am wearing one right now underneath this very basic bitch t-shirt. And the feeling of it underneath my clothes, that to me is Taurus Venus. Is Venus in Taurus, is that feeling of something beautiful underneath the layers that no one else gets to see. And now I get it. I get why she wore a slip. I get why older ladies are way cooler, because now, as said older lady, It isn't so much about what you're revealing, so much as what you're doing for yourself on the inside. And this slip is everything. Let me tell you, it makes me feel sexier, prettier, more delicate, because listen, I have a hard time with all of those things, being delicate, pretty, sexy. Not my forte. My astrology is not set up to feel like a dainty little lass. But just this one act of self-care that you wouldn't have known otherwise, because I'm wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt right now. But I know, and it's that feeling of luxury inside myself. That is Venus in Taurus. And so with it just being fresh, we have a few weeks of this Venus in Taurus. I want you to start thinking about how you are chewing your food, how you are breathing in the smells of spring, of fresh rain, of fresh flowers, of new shoes, and whatever it is, the linen sprays, the essential oils of it all, the hair products, like all of the things that you can taste and chew on and smell and feel and be. That is what I want you to be bringing into your reality, because it feels so good. Absolutely. Have longer hugs. Absolutely make out and beyond. Absolutely feel your body, because that is what a Venus in Taurus wants. So that's Monday. Can you dig it? Stay in those blankets a little longer. Go to bed earlier. Have that tea. Don't overdo, because Taurus likes to be slow. It is about the slow motion in the ocean, the slow kiss, the holding of the face, like romance novel chic. Let's do that. Can you? Can you do that? Can you look at someone that you have been with for years and years and years, if you're longtime partnered, and find the sensuality in them that you found when you first started dating? If you are in a new relationship, can you really breathe in the newness of that feeling, of their skin, of your skin coming together? If you are unpartnered, can you dig the sensation of your own hand holding your heart, of a longer bath, of a deeper kitty snug? Can you enjoy the whole point of being in a human body and feeling all of the senses all around you? That is just Monday. Okay. And then Wednesday, for our special little hump day, we get a full moon in Libra, which is also ruled by Venus. So you see where I'm going with this Venus vibe this week? So now we have Aries the sun, because a full moon is always opposite the sun, and a new moon is always right next to the sun. So the moon is opposite the sun. So the vibe and the question and the wiggles revolve around the full moon wiggles, revolving around self versus other. And where that falls in your chart is going to differ to where it falls in my chart. And that's where calling, ring-a-ding, and getting a reading is so important, because knowing where these things are in your chart means you can work with them more effectively. But what the vibe is the opposition of self versus other. What are you doing for yourself versus what are you doing for others? And does it line up? Or is there a huge imbalance there? So that's the question to ask yourself on Wednesday. It's also a good time to dig into your relationship dynamics, not just romantic, guys, but like any kind of partnership you're doing, your coworkers, your kids, your friends, your relationships, your family. It's all of these things that make up our mirrors. All the people around us, all the people we surround ourselves with are reflections of who we are as people. It's why I don't really buy the notion that like you're first dating someone new, right? And then you meet their friends and you're like, ew. That is not my tribe. That's not my vibe of people. That's information. Because if those are the kind of people your chosen partner chooses to be around and you don't like that vibe, that's information. All right. So for you, I want you to see this full moon as information. Who are you vibing with and why? Who is surrounding you and why? It is the accountability piece, the taking apart of why I allow this amount of energy suck from this group of people, from this job, from this thing. What is sucking your energy? right now? Is it just you? And then if it is just you, who are your helpers out there that can help you restore and renew the self? Because really the sun is all about the self right now. And low road Aries is narcissistic, selfish, one-sided, very arrogant. But high road Aries is my favorite because it is centered in self, because it doesn't need the outside world's input. And it is also about the body and how we're moving our body. And so then when you pair it with this full moon in Libra, it's still a Venus conversation. It is still about how are we relating? How is the you are today relating to the they, to the progressive shifting, microcosm that is your social life? How's that going? Take stock, because this is a big week for being able to make movement in relationships as it relates to self. It is a time to reflect on how you've gotten to where you are right now. If there is stagnation in your relationships, partnerships, families, friendships, it is a great time to think about, where am I in those? What stake do I have in those relationships? What am I doing right now? And why? Is it serving me? And if you don't think it's serving you, look at the shadow layer of how it's serving your shadow self. Do I just like attention? Do I feel like I need to be needed? Will I take that extra shift just because I don't want to come off as a bad person? How you come off and how you are can be separate, but it is through your own soul's evolution that you bring them together. Once we all imagine a world in which we were all operating on our most authentic level, I really do believe that could change the world. It is the masks we wear that mask us from our own self-awareness and attract the kind of mirrors that are going to draw out the horrors. The people, the things that are going to trigger us are our greatest teachers. I always say, if you have an enemy or if you have someone that's really hard for you in your life, I want you to look deeper at why that's hard. What does it trigger inside of your own preconditioning? And it is a week of this because Venus is here. Friday, Venus squares Pluto, and that is our planet of righteous big transformation. And it's usually the transformation that we're kind of afraid of. It's the transformation of letting go, of releasing, surrendering, and allowing. And I don't know about you guys, but this bitch has a hard time with that. The surrendering and allowing of it all feels so hard for me because I feel like if I can just control it, if I can just, work harder at it, that I can somehow change the trajectory. And this is where belief, faith, fate comes in, because what do you believe in? How do you believe in your own transformation? That's what this week is all about, because the people around us are our indicators. They are our temperature check. Do you feel loved right now? Are you getting what you need in the relationing with others? Are you being touched enough? Are you being kissed enough? Are you being told the things that you need to hear enough? And if not, why? What's happening right now that bars connection? Because this is a time where at all costs, we must connect. And it's kind of hilarious. I love that the full moon is on April Fool's Day, because I can take it way back to these roots of the Fool card, that we must start afresh, start anew. I sometimes will look at my partner from across the wood chips. We both are teachers at a school. And I will see him as himself, not my partner, not the person that I spend every morning with and every night with, but as a humaning out in the world, his own little species, his own little genre. And I fall in love with him all over again when I do that, because I'm proud of who he is. I love the person that he is. And in that way, I reconnect with him when I do that, because I am seeing him as he is, not who I need him to be or not who he is to me. And it's a great exercise. Do it with your kids. Do it with your family. Do it with your partners. Do it with your coworkers. See them as separate from you and find the things that you enjoy about them, or the things that they give to the world that feels beautiful. And reorient yourself. Allow them to be not who you always need them to be, but who they actually are. And that's when relationships can ascend, transcend, and become something deeper. I feel like we get so stuck in the residue of our routines, in the need for our partner to be who they said they were when we first got together with them. You hear that a lot in the breakdown of relationships, that, well, that person became someone different. Duh. Hello? All of our cells change every 7 years, and Saturn has a lot to say about a 7-year cycle, the 7-year itch. At 7, we start losing our teeth. At 14, puberty. At 21, we start becoming adults. At 30, we become real adults. Every 7-year cycle has something to teach us. Just like our souls, our cells, our innards need different. We need to change. We need to rise to new levels. If you are with the same bitch for a long time and she the same bitch, that's a problem. That's a problem, because you guys are keeping each other sedentary. And that's when restlessness comes in. That's when the itches come in. That's when we start resenting each other, because we're trying to force what used to be a square into being a square still, when really sometimes it just wants to be a circle. Why can't I be a circle if I want to be a circle? You can. Yes, you can. I empower all of us to be changing, shifting, and rising to our heart's full potential. But if we have a partner, or if we are the kind of partner who just wants everybody to stay how they said they were going to be and keep the room still, that's when the elephants start marching in and sit in the corners of our souls, is when we will not acknowledge that there are versions of ourselves unexplored. And that's what's crunchy about this week, is this juxtaposition of wanting to grow ourselves, but also still being in all of these relationships all the time. Most of us have relationships outside of ourselves all the time, and different parts of ourselves and different activations. And Venus squaring Pluto says it's time to love different. How can you hold hands different in this life together? Not just our love mates, but any mate that comes into your world that changes you, your friends, your family, all of it is up for review. Because when we don't allow the people around us to grow, that stymies not only their growth, but our growth. Because the notion of staying the same is ridiculous. We're not supposed to. We're supposed to grow. And now you hear all of those relationship books that say, you can't change a man. You can't change your partner. You can't change this, that, or the other. That's true. You yourself can't change someone else. You can't do that, and you can't expect them to change either. But what you can expect is paradox within the relationships you get into, because change is mandatory one way or the other. We're all changing and growing, but we do have intrinsicness, instincts, fundamentals, genetics, ancestral wounds that we're all working with and through, that drag us down to that very shadow side of ourselves. And so in one way, yes, fundamentally we are ourselves. I've never been not myself. Anybody who knows me, there are many who have known me since I was in kindergarten, and I am still that same aggressive little weird kindergartner. That's still me. But I like to think we have evolved over time. I like to think that the shifting and changing is the necessary component that grows us into our next pathway. So in that way, if you are frustrated, because I know that has come up a lot over the last few weeks, of our path shifting, of energy timelines changing right now, and if you are intimidated by this, or you have not seen enough growth, now is the week. This is your week. If you've been like, nothing's happened, I don't feel any progress, look to your relationships this week. Look at the mirrors around you. Are they hindering your change? Are they holding you up? Are you so afraid of your own change that you hold on tightly to dysfunction, because that keeps things baseline? No more, my friends. Also on Friday, Mercury is trining Jupiter. So our thoughts at the end of this week get expanded. Jupiter makes whatever it touches bigger, and it's a positive aspect. A trine is a beautiful little triangle that says, How do you change your thoughts to change your life? I've said that before because anytime Mercury is in the mix, it's about changing our thoughts. So stare at the people in your life. Just really look at them. Creep them out. Do that weird, what is it? Eye gazing. I dare you. Eye gaze with someone and see their soul different. That is your homework. See yourself different. See your people different. Look at them differently. Look at them through the scope of a stranger. Just spend some time looking and allow that Mercury trining Jupiter to expand to not just who they are, but to expand to their energy, their soul, their aura. Get real weird with it. Like, what is their energy vibe? And do you vibe that energy? What are they emitting that touches your soul or pings against it? What makes you want to lean forward versus lean back? That's what relationship is all about. And it is what the mirror represents, is that all the energy you draw to yourself is really the energy of how you feel about yourself, of how you feel about the world. And so there is great information in your friend groups, in your co-workerships. How you are relating is indeed a mirror of how you are relating to yourself. And then all this work, all this relationship work. Oh my God, my eyes are tired from all of this eye gazing. I am sick of looking directly into people's souls. So the bottom of the well of the soul looking is great because the sun in Aries is squaring, that is a big mark, Jupiter. So what got expanded in our brains on Friday gets expanded into what is on Sunday. It is a day for fun. Aries is about the self. The sun in Aries, it is exalted by the sun, is squaring Jupiter in Cancer. It is exalted in Cancer. We are happy bitches on Sunday, all right? Just reward yourself. Reward the work. Reward what is. Reward what is coming. Allow it to be thus. Because really, happiness is a state of being. And it is impossible to always stay in the same state of being. But when we are aware that we can make a choice to do it, then the world is our oyster. The sun opens itself up and says that really the only thing that can truly make you happy is yourself. All this relationship work you've done all week, all of these aha moments you've had, where does it always lead to? The breadcrumbs always go back to number one, to the self, to the soul, to what we're aching for. And sometimes I think this world turns us off. It turns us off to what it is we're actually seeking. And then we get frustrated and then we become victims and then we say, why me? Why does this always happen to me? And it's because we get in these cycles of abuse with ourselves that then we attract partners, people, our surroundings to mirror that. And that is when the victim complex can get so deep that it is much harder to find a solution because it is buried in the depths of what you are ignoring inside of yourself. What if the solution always is and always will be you? You cannot find that perfect partner. You cannot find that perfect job, that perfect house, that perfect pet. There is no perfect anything without self-actualization, without knowing what would truly enhance you. And if you aren't looking directly at what's not feeding you, if you aren't looking directly at what your part in this game of life is, then you're never going to find it. Then it's going to become a very elusive game of hide and seek where the hider has fallen asleep in the closet and like you don't know what closet they're in and you'll never find each other because you're not awake. One is sleeping and one is still searching. So how do you wake up the sleeping hide and seek self? How do you really start seeking from a place of actual faith in self and not expect others to bail you out? Look at yourself across the wood chips and see yourself for the first time as something separate from you, as an exercise. Who are you? What do you think you're representing to your community? And do you like that? Are you being a positive influence on your surroundings? So look at your partner across the wood chips and then look at yourself across those wood chips and say, how do I exalt myself? How do I see myself in the best, most highest functioning light? Oof! And I pulled the best of cards. I pulled the Imagine card. Imagine, just imagine what your life can be, what your life could be, what your life will be when you project out from the center, the core of yourself. Imagine what could be when you wear a slip underneath your grody t-shirt, not for anybody else but yourself. Imagine who's waiting for you on the other side of yourself, fully felt. Imagine the job, the person, the things you are going to attract when you reach that core center of self, dig them out, and allow them to be present and accounted for. Big week that way. Thank you so much for listening. Please like, share, follow. Go on to my new website, notyourmamasastrologer.com. Book a reading. Do yourself a favor. Cut out all of this mystery work. Call your astrologer, this gal, and explore your chart. Explore what inside you is begging to come out. I'm totally here for you. Thank you again so much for listening, and I will see you soon.